Alright folks, hello and welcome back to Downstage Gaming. I'm your host Josh, and this is part 5 of our B-Sides Let's Play of The Letter. When we last left off, we had finished our B-Sides run of Hannah, and she just ended up getting possessed this time, which is interesting. I'm definitely interested to see how that will play out as we sort of get to the end of things here. But here we are with Zach, and I mentioned it last time. I think this is really going to be the first one where we start to see some pretty major divergence here. But he's going to start with his same sort of dream horror that we had last time. Except this time we don't get sort of woken up in the middle of the night by our good friend Isabel. Instead we just wake up the next morning. And the first you know it's well muffled, or enough to wake me. Takes a few moments for everything to fall into place, for my eyes to adjust to the light streaming into the room. Despite the pleasant chill the AC brings, my shirt is clinging tightly to me, and my blanket a tangled mess around my throat. It's one of those nights again when sleep passes like a blink and is plagued with vague, fuzzy thoughts. I lift a hand to rub away the drowsiness from my eyes, and although it does little to relieve the gritty, burning sensation from my eyelids. Outside, the sun has yet to peek over the horizon, but night has already given way into the cool morning light, washing everything in subtle gray hues. At this hour, the entire city remains unstirring. Ordinarily, waking up before my own alarm means abusing the snooze button, twice or thrice, just to catch those precious few extra minutes of sleep. Hear, hear. But the persistent ringing makes it impossible now. Really, a phone shouldn't be able to ring this much.
This better be good.
Groggily, I scramble for the bag sitting at the foot of the bed. The ringing still hasn't stopped, even as I fish... Just kidding, okay. Even as I fish the phone out, and Ash's name flashes brightly on the screen when I turn it on. Must be pretty urgent if he hasn't dropped the call yet.
Where are you?
Ashton, it's 6 in the morning. Sun hasn't even risen. Hell, my brain ain't even awake yet.
Yeah, it's just like, obviously this line was in our playthrough last time, but the context was very different.
What do you need?
Get your ass here, pronto.
Here? Hold on. Can't this wait until I'm actually awake?
No, Rebecca's not.
His voice hitches, and I fail to catch the last of what he's saying over the sudden racket on the other side of the line. When the noise dies down, however, he does not continue. This abrupt change in his tone, the unexpected hesitance to speak, puts me on the edge, and a different kind of anxiety clings to me. Something's wrong.
Here is where, Ash.
Ermengarde Memorial Hospital. ER. Becca's already there. I need to be off somewhere.
How? What do you have that's more important than this, Ash?
Just
Come on.
get there. Please.
He drops the call before I can ask more. Maybe it's just me or my sleep-addled brain, but in that short moment, he sounds almost as if he's pleading. The thought alone does not ease the lump of dread gripping my insides, already heavy with fear. But despite the questions currently swimming inside my head, I waste no time in getting dressed, the rest of the day's plans and scheduled meetings effectively forgotten. Whatever lies ahead, I hope this ain't one of those times when my intuition is right. The scent of hospitals never did grow on me. Too fresh, too medicinal, too sterile, and if I'm gonna go down a more morbid train of thought, I'd say the air smells like blood and death if one pays closer attention. It's not entirely terrible in itself, just that the scent alone is enough to bring about old memories, mostly unpleasant. I'm not saying the recent birth of my niece is one, of course. That has been a good milestone for both me and my sister's family. It's simply unfortunate that the disinfectant has to be everywhere for something anyone wants to commit to memory.
Does Isabella ever feel this way when she visits her father?
Probably. The same odor assaults my senses as I make my way through the corridors in search of the emergency room. Recently renovated, according to one of the guards I asked for directions. Considering how long the place has been around, I'm not surprised they already made plans to modernize. Gotta keep up with the times, they say, especially for a place where lives are saved. I don't have time to admire the new work, though. Soon, the person I'm searching for comes into view. Rebecca's sitting still on one of the few benches lining the hall, her head bowed and her shoulders rising and falling in a slow rhythm with her breathing. Oh, Jesus. A pile of papers and various other personal effects have been arranged neatly beside her. And is that blood on those? I try to ignore the foreboding feeling it sends me as I reach for her and shake her awake.
Rebecca, I'm here. Wake up.
She opens her eyes at the second tap, along with a small yawn of her own. In the hospital's bright lighting, the dark circles under her eyes are more noticeable. Her voice is still rough with sleep when she greets me.
Zach, did Ash call you in?
Pretty much. Woke me up, actually. Said it was urgent. What happened?
He didn't tell you?
Not really. He just said I needed to be here.
Ash is not really one for communication.
Is everything all right? It sounded pretty urgent when he called. The way that guy phrased it, I thought for sure you had gotten into an accident or something.
Rebecca shifts in her chair, smooths a hand over her face, and lets out a sigh, weighted enough with fatigue as she does so.
I'm sorry, Zachary. It's just been a long night. I don't really know how I'm supposed to break this to you. Ashton should be the one doing this, but...
I mean, agreed that he should have said something, but I don't know why he's the person who has to.
Guy's busy again. No worries. You could tell me anything.
No, it's Isabella.
I'm afraid I can't quite follow, ma'am.
You weren't entirely wrong. But it wasn't me, obviously. Last night, she got into an accident. A car accident. She was hurt pretty bad, and they had to rush her here.
A lump has suddenly lodged itself to my throat. Whoopsies, making it difficult to get the next words out.
How bad exactly are we talking about here, Rebecca?
Critical. But I don't know. I didn't see her myself. When I came here, she was already in the ER. Has been since last night. The doctors haven't said anything since then.
And Ash?
He's looking into the crash. He hasn't called again, but he promised to keep us updated.
Okay, well, at least he's looking into things, I suppose. Another heavy sigh comes out of her. Abruptly, she stands and starts pacing, her trembling fingers laced tightly together in front of her. She continues for a good minute, treading the hall in short, uneven steps before stopping and pressing both of her palms over her eyes, as if that alone will be enough to stave off her exhaustion.
I called her out, you know? I promised I'll treat her to dinner if she gets out of her room. I was only hoping it would cheer her up after the news. The one about her co-worker yesterday.
Becca, you can't blame yourself.
And now, I should have just kept my mouth shut. If I did, then maybe she'd still be.
Hey, don't blame yourself. You had no idea this would happen. An accident is an accident. If there's someone you should hold responsible for this, it's that ass who ran her over. Ash will find that guy, don't worry.
I wish it were that easy. God, it's one after another, Zachary. And no one will tell me anything. I came in here asking for her, and all they said was, "She's in critical condition, ma'am."
Well, I mean, that means that, you know, she's not really in a place where you can visit, bud.
What are we supposed to do? I want to do something. I need to do something, but I can't. Not when she's still in there. Still fighting for her life.
I wish I can give her the answer she wants to hear right now. But that has always been the hardest part in circumstances like this. Always out of our control, always out of our hands. The least I can say to her right now is... well, definitely not there's nothing we can do. I mean, it's true. But you need to... Becca, you need to take a break. She gonna hate that? Whatever, it's true. Becca, you need to, like, get some sleep. Okay, good. Rebecca does not move nor pull away when I lay a reassuring hand on her back and lead her to an empty seat. If things are not as bleak as they appear, I doubt she would freely accept the gesture, strong-willed as she is.
I know you're worried, Rebecca. We all are. But you have to think about yourself, too. I'll be straight with you. You look like you're a few steps away from falling over. How do you think Bella will react if she sees you like this right now?
You don't have to mince words with me. Just say I look like horse dung, Zachary. I won't be mad.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone be called horse dung, Becca.
All right, ma'am. You look like you stepped and rolled in a pile of horse dung today. Not the same thing, but the way you are, there doesn't seem to be any difference.
There. Wasn't that easy? But, yeah, she'll scold me. Believe me, Belle will. She whines with how bossy I am every time. But she doesn't realize how she's every bit of a mother hen as I am. Don't tell her I said that.
Oh yeah, it'd be a real shame if she heard that.
And then maybe she'll laugh after. She never does stay mad with anyone for long.
That she does. Or you could always offer her food.
You don't have to tell me. That has always been a last resort. Works every time.
Look at us talking like she's gone and left us.
I'm sure it's nothing like that. I think I think this is just us hoping we won't lose her.
We won't.
You sound very sure.
Well, times like this, the only thing left to do is to hope. Maybe pray for the best. But I don't want to believe those guys inside aren't doing the best they can to save her. They have to be if they've been at it for hours.
It's also literally their job.
And Isabella's... You know how she is.
She's stubborn. I think that's a good thing. I want to believe she'll make it through because of that alone. I'm a mess, aren't I? One unfortunate incident, and I'm all ready to give up hope. Can't even keep myself together when nothing final has been said yet.
We all are. A mess, I mean. In more ways than one.
All of us humans, I mean. We let the silence fall and the words hang between us. Because the truth of those feels more tangible than what little hope we're both clinging to. Somewhere, far off the hall, I can almost hear the faint beeping of machines. Which one is Isabella's, I wonder? How is she doing? How long are we supposed to wait? Will she pull through? But it's always the waiting, ain't it? More than the fretting, it is always the long, excruciating hours that follows, blurring everything in between and slowing it down. By the point we both drank through our third cup of coffee, we've already lost track of the seconds, the minutes we've spent sitting here. There's no idle chatter between us, only companionship and what little support we could give each other. Which is not much, considering how long the two of us have known each other. Better for Ash to be here instead of me, or Isabella, if only she didn't have a different battle to fight right now. Then again, we won't be here if she ain't. When a door finally creaks open and a voice calls for us, none of the world shifts back into focus the way I'm expecting it would. It's Rebecca who handles it with much patience and tact while I sit on the sides. It's her who faces the nurse, who listens to him, who nods, and wordlessly follows when he gestures for us to do so, all in spite of the weariness beating down on her. A different kind of burden now, after that talk. I'm almost too afraid to ask. Oh, I don't like seeing this. Yikes. She'd love this room. The moment the nurse opens the door and the soft late morning sunlight greets us from the sole window, I know she would. It might be a little inappropriate to think about now, but if she's well, Isabella will say the same thing. She has, after all, always favored the sun. Reminds her a little of home, she said. It reminds me a little of her, too, to be frank. In the background, the heart monitor blips faintly in a steady rhythm. She's not an easy sight to see, covered in bandages, a thick cast on her leg and neck, with all these wires and tubes attached to her. She looks nothing but frail like this. That is really the most frightening thing of seeing somebody in a situation like this, at least in my mind, is especially someone who you see, like, normally all the time, to see them, like, all tubed up with tubes everywhere and, like, wires going everywhere. It's a freaky sight. And still. Too still. She's never still, and yet here she is, her breathing too quiet for comfort, even as the ventilator pumps oxygen into her.
They have to keep monitoring her.
But she's okay now? We'll just have to wait?
Not exactly. She isn't out of the woods yet.
But alive, right? I mean, she's here. Even with all this stuff attached to her, she's gonna be fine, yeah?
She lets out a breath, probably the 13th one since I joined her here, and flops unceremoniously on a nearby chair. Carefully, she reaches up and gives Isabella's bandaged hand a light squeeze. I'm not sure if that's meant to be an encouragement for the patient, or her. But for all the hesitance, I'm glad it's Rebecca who has to break whatever this news is. If this is Ashton, he'd drop that without any sort of preamble. For a detective looking to get answers, it works. For people waiting on the edge, it doesn't always.
I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. The doctors, they had to put her in an induced coma. They had to, after the seizures. It wasn't looking good. Something about the trauma and the head injury from the accident did that. I know I should have listened better. I'm sorry, Zachary. Half of it didn't even sink in. All I understood was she's on life support now, but they aren't expecting her to make it. Her chances aren't good from the start.
They can't just say that. They don't know her. I'll talk to them. They'll see reason if I just...
Oh, Zach.
I did, all right? Already did. I told them to get their asses together. Even made a promise to try.
But you mentioned they still have to monitor her. That means they haven't given up on her, right?
They haven't. I insisted. But with how things are, they said she might never wake up. And if she ever does, she might not be the same anymore. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I was angry when I told them that, and it just came out of my mouth.
Yeah, God, can you imagine being, like, a doctor who works on something like this and, like, dealing with the grief of that on your own and then getting out to people who love and care about this person and having them be like, why don't you do something, you ass?
Maybe they're right. Maybe I should have just let them...
You did the right thing, Rebecca.
You don't know that. What if she doesn't want this? Do you see all of these? Wires and tubes and bandages everywhere. She's barely herself, clinging to dear life as it is. She can't even hear us. Doesn't even know there are people here worried sick for her.
The point is, she's still here. Don't beat yourself up over what ifs.
Man, Zach's so great.
This ain't over for her, alright? I've seen people recover from even worse. Have some faith in her.
I do have faith in her.
You know what? I think this is just a lack of sleep talking. You been here since when? Last night? Go get some rest, Miss Gales.
But Isabella's...
I'll take care of her, don't you worry. We can do shifts if you want, but go home first. We'll talk about that later when you ain't looking like you're about to fall apart. If you keep going like this, you're the one who'll end up here next.
The rebuttal I'm expecting from her, even suggesting the idea, doesn't come. To my surprise, she merely chuckles.
This feels like a conversation I had with Isabella a few days ago. I said the exact same thing to her.
Then maybe it's a sign you should rest. Let me take over from now.
Maybe. But I'll keep that in mind. Are you sure you'll be fine alone? I'll come back this evening. So if you need anything picked up, I can get it for you.
Nah, no problem on that front. Besides, if I do need something, my apartment's just a few blocks away. Skip and a hop, that's all I need. Focus on getting some sleep. Let me take care of this for a few hours. Do it for everyone's sake, hmm?
Will do. Thanks, Zachary. If something changes with her, promise me you'll call.
You'll be the first one to know, ma'am. Well, if it comes to that. I hope the news I bring will be better than the one we got this morning. Crazy thing having to wake up to this.
I hope so too. I'll see you later.
Yeah, it's a rough morning for Zach. Rebecca manages a weak smile before turning and heading out of the room. But when the door clicks shut behind her, it does so with little finality. Like saying this won't be the last, that our stay here won't be as brief as we're all hoping. Beside me, the beeping from the machines remains unceasing. The distinct, familiar scent pervading the room persists as it wraps itself into the room's only occupants. Altogether, a different memory burns itself in my mind. So is this... do we... No? Okay. Alright. A hum, pleasant in every note, lingers in the air and carries with every shift. It reminds me of our room, of a little place my sister and I once called home, and of a promise made several springs ago, back when our walls are bare and everything's still foreign and new. The soft rustling wakes me long before I can fully remember. Someone is speaking in the room. In hushed whispers, muttering words like a secret not meant for my ears to hear.
This is stupid.
Ash? Takes a little while for the recognition to sink in and remind myself where I am. But sure enough, when I shift my gaze up, Ashton's there, leaning casually against the edge of the bed, arms folded across his chest, while sporting a pensive expression on his face. I'd say it's close to wistful, but this is Ash, and with the room's lights dimmed down, one really can't tell.
Hey, Ash.
If my sudden movement surprised him, it only shows in the slight lifting of his eyebrows before he acknowledges me with a small nod.
How long have you been here?
Just came in a few seconds ago.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you.
Figures. It's not a problem. You probably need to rest anyway.
You're the one talking. You look like shit.
So I've been told.
Is that Zach's job today? Is to tell everyone they look terrible?
Seriously. How long have you been up?
18, 20 hours or so? It doesn't matter. I'll get some shut-eye later. Where's Rebecca?
I sent her home early, but she'll be back too.
Both of us turn just in time to see Rebecca ease the door open and step inside. She's brought a traveling bag with her, and from the way she transfers its load to her other hand, it's heavy enough with things for maybe 2 or so days worth of sleeping out. I don't know what to say to that, quite frankly, or if I'm even supposed to question her about it. Ashton, no doubt, has a remark or two about it, but before any of us could comment, she raises a hand to stop us.
It's not mine.
3 words, and they are all telling enough. Just like that, an awkward silence descends in the room. All of a sudden, just the mention of her has become some sort of taboo between us. Funny, when she's just lying a few inches away from us. God knows if she's even aware of us. Even in this quiet, I can hear her laughing, or making a big deal out of this, she'll say. It isn't anyone's fault, but it's obvious that, one way or another, each of us hold our own selves responsible for what happened, however irrational that sounds. Plenty what-ifs, should-haves, and could-haves going around. It's almost stifling.
Always prepared, ain't you?
I just packed what she'll be needing for a few days. I figured it'll be easier for me to bring her things since I live next door. Go take a break now, Zachary. I'll stay with her until tomorrow when her aunt gets here. She's flying over from the other side of the country. Heard she had to file a leave to get here as soon as possible. Oh, what a mess all of this is.
Don't you have class tomorrow? You sure about that?
I can always call for a leave, too. I've got plenty, since I rarely ever use those. Someone has to stay here after...
No, I'll take it from here.
It's not that his offer is in any way unexpected. It's not even in the way he delivers it. Ash may seem distant to other people, rude to some, downright embarrassing to a few, but to those he keeps close, I'm positive he'll never hesitate to show some willingness to help. He cares, he really does, simply in his own, unorthodox way. I'm sure Rebecca's aware of this too, more than anyone. But the tight expression on her face, her strained grip on the bag, and the stiff line on her shoulder suggests a different kind of understanding. Even in the sharp, biting tone her voice takes, despite the meaning in her words.
You don't have to do that. Zachary and I can handle this for a few days.
Both of you already had your turn with this. It wouldn't hurt to have another person helping out.
This isn't some sort of a competition, Ash. We're doing this because someone has to be here for her.
I'm not making this one. I just volunteered, didn't I?
Don't you have an investigation to finish?
Becca, why are you mad about
And
this?
Zach has freelance gigs in line for the next few days. You have students to teach. Don't push it, Becca. All 3 of us have things to take care of on our own. But between us, it should be easier to find some time to...
Fine. Good.
Her voice is almost too quiet. Like the calm on the eve of a brewing storm.
Do what you want.
She doesn't give him a chance to get another word in. In 3 steps, she closes the distance between them and hands him the bag, with a little more force than necessary, in my opinion. Then, with nothing more than a sharp glare at him, she marches out the door. Maybe it's just me, but in the brief instance our eyes meet, hiding behind that flash of anger is... hurt. Did something happen when I wasn't looking? Is she jealous that he cares? Like, if that really is it, like, come on, Becca. I hope I'm wrong. It certainly doesn't seem that way from the way Ash is acting.
You go ahead, Zach. I'll take over for now.
You sure this is fine?
Yeah, sure. It's not like this is a hard task. I'll probably get more sleep here than if I stay at the precinct or in my car. I'll call when something changes with Isabella, if that's what you're concerned about.
You ain't worried?
About what?
I'd say Rebecca, but he doesn't seem to have noticed earlier's exchange. God, what a dunce. Regardless, I'm not the kind of person who finds joy in prying, and it's certainly none of my business. On top of that, we have Isabella here, bedridden. Rebecca's right. It's one problem after another, and to be truthful, kinda want to ask for a little breathing room already. But that ain't all how it always goes, ain't it?
This, everything, the accident, I don't know. You tell me. You were there, weren't you?
That gives him a pause, his hand stopping short of placing the bag on the table. Judging by the conflicted look in his face, he doesn't know how to respond to that. Yet.
About this, I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I'll find out myself who did this and make sure that bastard gets his just desserts.
What if it's Luke?
So you do have an idea who?
Vaguely, but nothing conclusive yet. I'd rather not say anything until we've got everything sorted out. It's a huge mess. This and that other case. It might even be related for all we know. Thinking about it gives me a headache.
He lifts a hand and pinches the bridge of his nose. His eyes are squeezed tight in what's perhaps a struggle not to overthink. Or keep whatever frustration he feels at a considerable distance, preferably far enough so he can think clearly. When he's like this, it's better to leave him alone with his thoughts. But as I'm about to pull the door open, ready to take my leave, he calls out,
Do me a favor, Zach. Make sure you keep away from the Wrights this time. Tell Rebecca the same thing.
The name rings a bell, though at present I can't recall where I've heard it recently. Nevertheless, I nod, if only to give him some peace of mind. This guy already has enough on his
I
plate.
remember that. See you later.
If you catch up to Becca, Make sure she gets home safe.
Will do. Go get some sleep yourself.
I throw him one last look, even though at this point, I'm not sure what I'm searching for in his face. Reassurance? Some sort of encouragement or proof that everything will be alright? I won't dare ask anymore. Not when he's doing this, looking forlorn, like as if he's failed a lot of people. One person in particular. With one last wave, I close the door behind me, leaving wishes of hope and a whole slew of unspoken remorse and concerns in the room. Oh, poor Ash. And what is all this? I'm curious. We'll see. My apartment is a more than welcome sight after everything. Although it's small and begs for a little cleaning and repair, it is, at the end of the day, the closest I have to a respite. Sure, my sister would have a thing or two to say about the mess every time she visits, but it's still home to me. A mild draft sweeps into the room as I close the door behind me, slightly disturbing the papers on the nearby fridge. Most of them schedules, lists, and tasks for the next few days. Something to keep me busy while I sort things out, sort myself out. And now, with what happened to Isabella, something to temporarily take my mind off things. A lone note flutters by my feet, the letters on the surface glaring at me with mute intensity. There it is. Ermengarde Mansion, 8 to right, 11 a.m. After Ashton's warnings, they all hold a different meaning now. What? Why is this before this? That must be just a weird accidental journal thing. The next 2 days rush by in a blur, altogether leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piling up and new unexpected acquaintances or friends. So where are we now? Yes, okay, had a feeling. Yep, so we're taking a look at the pictures that we made. A bit too forward for a married woman, maybe, but not as bad as what's on the tabloids. Not that I ever read those. Ashton could be flack for just staring at one. Rubbish, he called them once. I think he's just pissed because they often put the local police in a bad light. Yeah, I wonder why they would ever do that. Although with a life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might have even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella too, if they weren't living worlds apart. Probably. Beep quickly pausing before my thoughts travel any further. Whoop. She was nice enough to ask, after all, and was a good companion up until the awkward turn a little chit-chat had taken. Even if she didn't ask, I would have probably given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Mr. Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. And maybe this is just me, but for someone who has everything in the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband, and a plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, and we've seen this before, yep. So we get the freaked out picture, we have the memory of that, and last time we decided to show the photo to Hannah. This time, we're going to show the photos to Ash. Boom. Ash will give me flack for this, he will. I can already hear what he's going to say about this the moment I bring it up. Hell, before he even sees anything, I'll wager. Guy's a skeptic through and through, and it'll take more than my account for him to even consider this. But when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs at the back of your neck and leave you wanting to flee or hide, what he thinks is the least of my concerns. I'm no hero. That's a title best reserved for someone else. Still, if this'll help him change his mind, it's worth a try. I'd not considered that angle on this before. That actually might have convinced me to do Ash last time had I known it. Won't change what happened to Isabella. But she certainly won't wish for anything to happen to us, either. Outside, the sun is yet to rise. Still got a few hours before dawn. Good enough time to mull over how I'll go about this with him. Plenty of space to check if I'll get the same result if I redo the process again. The film processor hums back to life with my touch. Light switch gives out a soft click, and darkness embraces the small closet again.
Somehow those urban legends don't sound so silly now.
Alright. Well, we will have to find Ash and show him these pictures next time. Until then, this has been Downstage Gaming. I've been your host, Josh, and I will catch you all next time.